No, other way.
Oh, right. Oh, going the wrong way. All right, guys. We are live.
We are live.
I have two special guests. My siblings, Sid and Max. How about you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I am Max.
And I am Sydney.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
So happy to be here. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, indeed.
We are so excited.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am here with my two siblings to talk about what it's like growing up with a sibling with a learning disability, which is me. And, you know, siblings are so often not talked about as it relates to the impact in a family dynamic. We always hear about parents and kids with learning differences, but then there's the siblings. So that's you. So here we are. Welcome, and as you guys tune in, please share where you're watching from. We have a community all over the world, so please just share your country, where you're watching from, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We're going to be excited to talk about it. It's going to be a little bit goofy, so. Okay, so, I mean, it's been quite a journey.
I would say it's been 25 long years.
Well,
that's for sure.
Only 20 for you, so.
True.
You're not really right. So here's what I want to go over, guys. So it's been a journey, and there's going to be a lot of families here watching with us, with kids and siblings in the dynamic. You know, sometimes there's different challenges that come up with this, like sibling jealousy, and when parents give too much attention on one child, the others, there could be an impact. So why don't we just open this up and hear about your own stories growing up with me as the sibling with a learning difference, and let's just like start there. So like let's go out from what's like the earliest memory that you have when you started to realize that I had some challenges at home.
So since I'm the youngest of these two beautiful people, and I would say that you were always the most creative, always trying to do the creative thing. My earliest memory would be when we would play like spies, and we would pretend to be secret agents, and we would go in the backyard with our little Nerf guns, running around trying to kill the bad guy that, of course, never existed. And
infiltrate our house. And if you guys have kids that do this, let us know, because we thought we were the only ones.
And
I was on the inside. I planned the whole thing.
And I would say that was kind of where Jake felt comfortable growing up. He felt comfortable in those kind of worlds away from the world and away from the trouble, and my perspective really kind of started to grow as I got older of what Jake's issues were. The whole situation where Jake was pulled out of middle school, I was very young, so I didn't quite catch on to that as it was happening, but of course, everything kind of went on from there. And, you know, living with a sibling with learning disability is challenging at times, but it's also great at times because you get to really benefit from their unique perspective.
Wow. And this is going to be cool for me because we've never really had a conversation like this before.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is going to be an experiment because, you know, Max and I, you know, two brothers, we had a lot of, you know, we played video games together. We played video. We did Dance Dance Revolution. I remember Dance Dance Revolution
Thanks
battles.
for looping me in.
No, it's okay, Sid. So I want to know, as our sister, what, you know, sitting around the table when I would have a freak out, or when I would have a moment when mom and dad would put a lot more attention on me, did you guys feel that impact? Was there jealousy going on, or?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, honestly, going back to your first question about my earliest memory, it really was, we were sitting around the table and you were starting your medicine. You were starting your medicine for all of the, for just like trying to figure out like how to handle the ADHD and like
Right.
really what that meant for you. And so I just remember seeing you having a tic for the first time. And because, you know, when you're not necessarily on the right medicine, like you have adverse reactions like that. And so I just I don't think I fully understood what that was. I think maybe I was in fourth grade. I don't really fully remember, but I just remember realizing at that moment that something larger was going on, something larger that I couldn't really comprehend in the moment.
Wow.
But that was my first memory. Everything else, I mean, like it wasn't brought to our attention that you were different. That, I mean, like that's not how we were raised. Like we were always just like one and the same. But like in that moment, I realized that something else was going on that I think we had to end up digging deeper, and we like had those tough conversations about like what that meant.
Right. Now with my tics, and if you guys are watching it, if any of your kids have tics as well, was it uncomfortable to watch me? Did you have questions? How did you approach learning about my tics at that stage as a result of my medicine?
Well, at first I thought that you were just constantly saying no to me because your tic was to shake your head. And so I just thought, I was like, wow, he's not into whatever I'm saying right now. But in reality, after learning about it from mom and dad, it was really just more of like this is actually just a repercussion of what we're trying to do to help Jake, and like it's not actually a bad thing. And I don't think I was ever afraid. I just wanted to learn. I wanted to know more about like why it was happening. But
right, and for me, I had a hard time communicating that to you guys because I didn't know what was going on, and
we were all young.
We were very young. But that's the thing. Most of our audience has kids that were our age, and all I wanted to do was to really just tell you, but I didn't know how. And I think it's important to remember that when you have a sibling with a learning difference, that is when, especially with medication, when you're experimenting with what's the right kind. I remember one medicine I had my heart had challenges with that, and that was a whole phase. But to have patience, and I just think that's really, I forgot about the tics, honestly, and the fact that that was a memory for you that's ingrained in our childhood, and
it wasn't what defined her. It just like as the
Right.
first memory of like you asked, you know, like was it different, you know, like what made it different? And I think that was the first moment that I realized that maybe we're not one and the same, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
To take a second, I just want to say hello to everyone who's tuned in. Please interact with the chat, interact with us. We are here to answer your questions. And
Max and Sydney.
Yes, Max,
Sydney.
And to go back to your question about the table, again, I'm 4 years younger than you. But when you were going through your medicine, I was probably around, I don't know, 6 years old. I always remember being frustrated that you weren't eating at the table. You weren't eating with us. You were not hungry. Why were you not hungry at dinner time? That's what I remember. I was like, it's dinner time. You should be hungry. Why are you not eating? And then all of a sudden, it'd be time for me to go to bed, and you'd be having cereal, or you'd be
much of it.
yeah,
too.
and you'd be having like the biggest bowl of cereal I've ever seen.
Concoctions.
Yeah,
they were massive.
The Life and
Huge. There would be huge glass soup bowls.
And don't forget the banana.
Oh, I think I had 2 bananas in there. I had 2 massive. Yeah, it was huge. My eating habits were so off.
Delicious.
And they still are. I mean, unique. No, and growing up, and I had to really understand. I asked my parents. I really had to dig deeper into the fact that it's not the fact that you're not hungry. It's the fact that the medicine is kind of suppressing your appetite. That's a real thing. The medicine can suppress your appetite. And as a brother, watching another brother go through not being able to eat during dinner, I was like, what's going on? And it's these important conversations, trying to get the younger siblings and the younger kids to really understand what's going on,
Right.
is what creates that empathy and tries to instill that empathy in the other kids.
Right. Now, did mom and dad have any conversations with you? Did they ever have one-on-ones, or how did they help you understand that there's going to be a lot of attention on Jake for a little bit? Did they have a conversation on that?
So I would say that it wasn't that they focused all their attention on you, although their mind, as Dad said in an earlier interview, 95% of the thoughts were about how to get you in the right situation, on the right medicine, with the right people. I would say that it wasn't necessarily a conversation, because mom and dad are a tag team. They are the greatest tag team in the history of tag teams. They were both focused on you, but they were able to kind of transition their focus into, right now I got this, you deal with Sydney and Max, or you got this, I got Sydney and Max. Like, it wasn't necessarily a conversation, because Sydney and I had our own issues.
Right.
You have a kid that has ADHD, dyslexia, learning differences, this and that. Your other kids are not just perfect.
Certainly not.
Right. Now, Sydney, tell us about this, because tell us a little bit about your story with overcoming some of these challenges as well, because I know we have a lot in common with, we both have learning differences, and
right. So
yeah.
like I have ADD, and I learned about that my junior year of high school.
Wow.
When everything that I was trying to compensate for kind of ended up failing me. I was staying up until 2 a.m. trying to get my work done, because my homework that should have taken me 3 hours ended up taking me 9 hours, and it just nothing was really working for me anymore. But when you were going through your transition into kind of realizing who you were, what kind of differences that you had, your learning differences, and transitioning schools and everything, I saw it as, oh, well, the problems that I have don't really hold a torch to your problems. So I was like, I don't want to bring them up to mom and dad, because I don't want to put more extra on their plate, because that's how I operate. That's always been I don't want to put people out. That's just a part of who I am, and that's something that I have had to overcome in my own time. But I really think that a huge aspect of growing up was that mom and dad they realized when I was struggling. They saw it, even though a lot of their energy may have been focused on you. It was the fact that they asked me questions about how I was doing. It's if parents ask questions to their kids might not be telling them what problems are going on in their minds.
Yeah.
Because they don't even know enough to ask. I didn't know that I was actually struggling with something. I was just maybe it just takes me longer to do my homework. But that wasn't actually the case. There was a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
And mom and dad knew enough about me and about you to ask me the hard questions. And I got to the point where I realized, I was oh, maybe I do need to look into this a little bit more.
Right. I think that there's so many different stories of this, because I'll find when I'm mentoring some of my clients, there's the siblings that are involved, and I've seen some siblings that are trying to get the attention of the sibling that I'm working with, because they're not getting the attention. Mm-hmm. And mom is with us on the call while the younger sibling is breaking all of the Legos. And that's something that, it happens a lot. When the attention isn't on the other siblings, there is this now lack of, there's this conversation of, like how do we work together? And it's hard. It's hard for siblings to see all this attention on the oldest. So it absolutely is. It's a muscle. So how do we, where do we go from here, right? Because it's just so important for us to acknowledge this piece of a family dynamic that there could be an impact. And with Max and I, we would, when we would play video games together, and with Sid, I mean, we would have the most fun, just goofy conversations, and we would like explore together and do fun things together. And at the same time, I had no idea because it was my challenge, but then there were also challenges of you. So I think that when we have a transparent conversation together, I think that's really where the relationship started to really take off. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot to this. And again, for you guys watching, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask away. This is a very unique opportunity for you to speak to siblings that, and if you and your family dynamic are struggling with the siblings, I think this is going to be a great conversation to ask questions. So I did want to bring up one question that was asked, and I'm just going to read it here. So the question was, how did you and your siblings deal with things when you realized that your younger siblings could read and spell words that you couldn't? This happened at quite an early age for my kids, and I found it being a new level to self-comparison and can further knock self-esteem. It is hard enough at school when children compare their spelling and reading abilities to their peers, but it added an extra layer of frustration when my eldest compared herself unfavorably with her younger siblings who find spelling and reading easier. Wow, that's a really good question. So how did you and your siblings deal with things when you realized that the younger siblings could read and spell words that you couldn't? So I'll answer this first, then we'll open it up to you guys. Sure. I found I never really did my work at home, and I think that's something that's important. That to have that kind of separation is it's more healthy for the relationships to be had. Now during COVID-19, obviously we can't just like go into another library or go do our homework at school. It's all done at home. So I did my homework usually away, but then I would read and get severe stomach pains in the middle of the house, and I would freak out. I would have these massive breakdowns, and that obviously caused a huge disturbance in the family dynamic because I would freak out. Okay, and then all of a sudden, Max is an incredible academic. He's very bright and smart, and so are you, Sydney, but I think Max, no, I mean, we both can agree, like Max is very, very good.
Sydney got Dean's List.
Sydney also got Dean's List.
Yeah, I did.
Which congratulations, Sydney, give it up for Sydney, who made it to Dean's List.
Okay, but Max recently made it to Dean's List.
So you both made it to Dean's List. Did I ever make it to, I think I made it to Dean's List once.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
sure.
I did. Come on. So I guess I saw Max, and fine. Both of you guys, really. I mean,
Max is really good at numbers.
Yes, math was something that was very challenging for me.
And so to take that from you, I was very self-conscious about kind of projecting my academic success in school. I felt like I didn't want to put that on you as another stressor. I didn't want to say like, oh, all of a sudden I'm getting all these good grades. I didn't want you to feel like you're inadequate. So it's a real feeling, and I'm sure that there were times where you said, wow, it comes so easy for him, rather than for me it's not necessarily as easy. But it's kind of like you gotta explain it for the parent to deal with that. What I would do is explain that everyone is on a different time zone when they're learning. You have people that take longer to get somewhere than others. You have people that gets somewhere really fast, but everyone is eventually is trying to get to the same spot. I took 5 years in high school. By the time I graduated high school, I was 30 years old. No, I'm just kidding. But I took a long time in my educational path. I mean, I'm in college, my first year of college. I turned 20. I'm about to be 21-year-old sophomore in college. That's older than the average college student. But
and that's okay, by the way.
That's okay.
It's okay to repeat. It's okay to do that.
But what I'm trying to say is that it's very important to explain that everybody is on their own time zone. It's not like if one person is all of a sudden getting math, the other person is not getting it at that time. The person that's not getting it is dumb. It can't do it. No, you have one person that. What about the people that get married at 25 versus the people that get married at 32? They're both married at the end of the day. It's just a matter of one person getting there at 25 than 32. It's at the end of the day, math, numbers, academic success is all about where you are in the process.
Yeah.
Because it's a full process. It's a full process. It's not anything that is different than one person doing something first and another person taking a little bit longer. But at the end, you're still going to get there.
Right. I think not looking at it as a competition.
Right.
And that we're all at a different pace. Right? You're at a different pace, I'm at a different pace, Max is at a different pace. And it's not a competition, which sibling competition happens all the time.
I mean, it's a thing.
We are competitive.
We are very competitive.
In different ways. I mean, I think that something that our mom and dad did for us was stress the importance of effort and how much effort you're putting into things, because at the end of the day, if we were all giving 100% effort and I got a B and Max got an A and Jake got a C, it doesn't matter. We never compared our grades. It was always like, well, did you do enough? If you did everything that you could, if you put everything down on the table and you just did it all and you still got a C or a D, or you failed, which I have done, you have done, we've all failed. We've all failed at exams, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But if you did everything that you possibly could do in that moment to succeed, and you still didn't, then it's out of your control.
There's
and
nothing
that's
worse.
Right. And it
Yeah.
stinks.
There's nothing worse when mom and dad ask you, you're like, I got a bad grade, I got a 60 on my exam. Got a bad grade.
You got a 46 on my exam.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than the question, did you do everything you could do?
Yeah, that was the question. And I think
that's actually really good.
I mean, that is what we used as a comparing factor. It was never the end result. It was the process.
That is so important. Let's dive into that for a second, because let's go head first, because when it comes to this, I think this is a great lesson that we can bring home back to our families, which is it about the end result or is it about the effort? What did you put into it? Can you say confidently that you did everything you could do?
If you have a kid that is struggling with math and struggling with that process, but busting their butt to get it done, and they are struggling with the grades and the outcome, but they're busting their butt, how could you be mad?
Right. But here's the challenge, though, because this happens a lot, is a lot of kids who, with learning intention challenges, don't have the motivation. It's very hard. How do you have the motivation in the first place when you're full of fear, anxiety, and stress? You can't. You don't. It's very difficult to move forward in that. So to have a support, to have siblings that are also involved in that conversation, I just think it's important that we can't leave siblings out. And that's something that is very, very...
We motivate each other.
We motivate each other.
It's like you set goals.
Right.
And if you talk about those goals, if you have siblings and you talk about those goals with each other, you have more people in your life besides your parents holding you accountable for what you're trying to do. So when you set goals, you can have that cheerleading system that can motivate you when you're feeling down.
Right.
And that is so important to have, because without it, like, listen, I also, I mean, I have ADD. When I was trying to learn biology, forget it. Like, forget it. But at the end of the day, the goal was to try my best. And I did not want to disappoint, like, my fuel to my fire was I didn't want to disappoint my parents, and now it has kind of transferred into I don't want to disappoint myself, which is, I think, a lot healthier. But you have to make it a goal to force something, because if you don't have that, then there's no point in even learning biology. But there, I mean, that's part of the curriculum. You gotta learn it. It's part of what you have to learn. So, like, it's going to happen anyway, so you might as well do it to the best of your ability.
Right. And I think this is a big wake-up call for siblings, and for parents watching this who have kids that you feel are going to be impacted by this. I think this is going to be a huge lesson for them, and just know that siblings are there for each other. Yes, there's going to be tension. We've had fights. We've had fights. Look, it's normal.
I think
it's part of.
Yesterday.
We had did we? I don't even remember. So
last night.
It's part of it.
I think so.
It's part of growing up. It's part of growing up. But the most important fundamental foundation for siblings to know is that we have to have each other's backs, and we have to respect each other.
Empathy, respect, and love.
Empathy, respect, and love.
Amen.
Empathy, respect. I like that. I'm gonna write that on my wall. I think it's so, and that's really what it is. And for the younger kids, just have fun together. Play games together. Play video games together. Whatever it is, do it together. All right? Because the more we're together, the more we can bond with each other.
Yeah.
And that was when we got super close, when all of us started to hang out together. And
it's actually weird, because that's not true. We got super close when you left for boarding school, and I realized I missed you.
Ooh.
And we made more of a concerted effort to actually reach out to each other and talk, and we had those deeper conversations. But
Wow.
It was the fact you don't realize what you have until it's gone, and
Obviously,
you were like no longer in the house. And so I was like, wait a second, I miss my older brother. And so we then developed that relationship. And our relationship is still evolving, because when I went to college, I developed my own opinions, and you have your own set of opinions, and we've learned how to
We've
communicate
evolved as people.
Right.
people, and so, like, the relationship changes, but that doesn't mean that the strength of a relationship
Right.
changes.
And I think that's important. And for the families that, when you're going away to boarding school may not be an option for a lot of families. And there are dynamics that are struggling with, everyone's in public school, and we're in a tight house. Maybe people are watching this in an apartment. We're in an apartment right now. So, like, how do we have that space in that time? And the most important thing that I always say is, for the parents watching, understand what your kids love. Understand their outlets. That's what I call them. These are activities that help them express in order to feel in control. We all have ours.
Right.
Why don't we just take a minute and share what our outlets are?
Just let's interact with the chat, see what's going on. Have got any action in the chat? I see
Ooh.
a couple. I see David
Dad.
J. I see Lauren Gottlieb. Oh, Mom
Allie
and Dad.
Campbell in the house. Alexa Eden in the house. We got people in the house. And guys, again, we're gonna stay on for a little bit if you have questions. So please don't hesitate to ask. Just for
Outlets.
let's just talk about outlets for a minute, because I think it'll be great to see different examples. I talk about this all the time. So what would you say your outlets are?
Okay, so my outlet, I've always played video games. I think that's always been a thing I've done. The biggest outlet I've had is basketball. I play basketball all the time, every day. It's over the years, it's evolved to piano, which I am awful and annoy everyone in the family.
You're getting better.
Beethoven, shout out to Beethoven.
The one song.
Moonlight Sonata. Yeah.
And recently as well, I've developed a love for tending to the garden.
Max's green thumb has evolved
Yeah, it has.
over the past week.
Max is officially a 60-year-old man.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? Gardening is fun.
No,
I think gardening is a trendy
is
thing now.
actually a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And what about you, Sydney? What would you say some of your outlets are?
Well, I'd have to say that recently, just working out has become an outlet for me more so than it has in the past. It's just a time that I have to myself, and I mean, I used to think that I have to be in like a large group of like with a large group of people that I know and like go work out with all my friends, but I realized that like actually going by myself is a lot more effective for me because it allows me to be alone in my thoughts, which is something that I think is hard for a lot of people, and so that has been great for me. I've also finally started reading for pleasure again because I didn't do that in college as much. I didn't really feel like I had the time, so taking the time to do that has been just a real treat. But also just my friends. I love talking to my friends. I love having those having random conversations, stupid conversations, deep conversations, just like all those different conversations. It's nice to have those connections for me. So like that's definitely a strong outlet.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, and thank you guys for sharing that. That's so cool.
What are your outlets?
Ooh, what are my outlets? All right, so my outlet, the first one is I love running and triathlons. Well, it's really at the foundation of that is running.
I love triathlons too.
Yeah, Max. And I play the piano, which is like creativity. And my passion is working with kids. I love working with kids. And it's something that is...
Kids are great.
Can I, for the record, say that when I have heard this guy on calls with kids, he's like yelling on the phone, engaged, passionate, energetic.
It's really one of the greatest things.
It's so much fun to watch. I mean, like, I'm not even on the call. I want to be on the call. I want to sign up for the mentorship program. I want to talk with you.
I appreciate that. I did not tell him to say that, so thank you. But yeah, guys, so think about your kids' outlets. What are the things that they gravitate to? This time in quarantine is an amazing opportunity to learn about your kids like never before. So learn about the things that they love. Even if it's video games, what kind of video games? Because you're going to understand why. Maybe ask to play with them. Get involved, because this is going to help build that relationship and the interactions you're going to have with your kids, and do family games together. Yeah. Do a scavenger hunt, and make up a family Olympic night, and try different things.
It's
and
nice outside now. If you can get outside, it's really
just have fun together as a family. This is a moment in history that we're all going to cherish together. So I guess with that, let's wrap this thing up.
Absolutely.
For I guess to wrap it up on my end, I would say that parenting for a family with a kid with learning differences, a kid with learning different like disabilities or ADHD, dyslexia, whatever it is, that kid might have more attention. That will happen. But to use gardening, my outlet, as kind of like an analogy, if you have 3 plants, the 3 of us, and mom and dad only watered you and only focused on you because you were smaller than Cindy and I necessarily, because you were still growing, you were still learning at a different pace. If you were watering that plant, or if they were only focused on you, then Cindy and I would go unnoticed. You can't do that. You got to share the water.
Wow.
You got to spread that love.
Sharing the water.
You got to spread that love. So I truly believe that it is the parent's job to fully to really engage and be open.
And let's think about the siblings also. Like, what do you think about what should the siblings?
I mean, I just.
What are some tips for siblings that we can say?
Well, I think the parents need to have the conversations with the siblings. The conversations about the fact that, hey, maybe we will be like, if you were a smaller plant, not to go back to your analogy, but if you were a smaller plant, maybe you did need a little extra water.
I am shorter than Max, so
Like,
technically
maybe
I'm a
you
smaller
needed
plant.
a little bit of extra water.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we don't get water. But you may have needed a little bit more.
Right.
And like, that's okay, because that didn't mean that mom and dad loved you more. It didn't mean that they cared about you more or wanted you to
That's
only
so good.
succeed. They had the conversations with us, and like, for me, I interpreted that as I needed to pull away, and that wasn't right on my part, and mom and dad figured that out and helped me kind of come out of my shell, and then they worked on my issues, and then they worked on Max's issues.
Right.
When you got diagnosed with scoliosis in 5th grade. Like, all of these like crazy things, they happen, and it's not going to be some perfect dystopian world where no one else has problems. Utopian world.
Dis-you-o-it.
Yeah.
We're all
Certainly not perfect, but
what's perfect?
That doesn't exist. And so I think that once we understood what was going on, it was a lot easier to accept that, okay, you might be getting a little bit more attention right now, but that's okay. And also, what mom and dad did, like, dad had date nights with date days. We got to, I mean, I don't know if this is, we got to play hooky from school one day out of the year, and like, I've been going to the Mets game once a year with my dad, and that's like I look forward to it every single year since I was like 7 years old, and like, we have those moments. So create those moments with your kids, and that will carry so far.
Right, that's so good. That was the one thing that I think was that brought us together as a family, because that was the one thing we could look forward to, like that once a year go to Toys R Us and be like, oh my gosh, we would always wait for the.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know. Did they go into business? I don't know. But the point is, date night is fun because it's one day a year that you can dedicate to each specific kid in your family. And it's different every time, but that is so good because then everyone's gonna have equal attention, and it doesn't matter what's going on. You get a day with mom and dad, or a day with mom, or a day with dad, and that's your day, no one else's.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is great. So, guys, again, thank you for watching with us. If you have any questions for Sydney and Max, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you would like to learn more about my mentorship program, I do work with kids all over the world. So please just reach out to me via Facebook or on my website at www.superpowerconsulting.com. And I will be keeping you guys posted for our next video. I got a few exciting interviews coming up. So, guys, thank you so much for coming
We
on
love
here.
you.
This
We
is
love
so
you.
fun. Still don't have a name yet for this live stream. So if you can think of one, I'll give you a prize. I don't know. So
We'll think about it.
we'll think of one.
We're gonna.
Guys, have a wonderful night. Okay, thanks again for coming on. All right, bye.